Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour. We know it's been about a month since we've been on, but we are just days away from the 2024 NFL Draft in Detroit, Michigan, where your Philadelphia Eagles have the 22nd pick in the first round. And what are we doing today, Connor? We're doing our annual first round NFL mock draft. We will get into the details, the specifics of how it's going, and then we'll also tell you what we're going to do early in the week when we reconvene before Thursday's first round. But as always, I'm your host, LG Harrell, and I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, it's been a while, bud. I'm glad we're back, and I'm glad we got something to talk about.
Absolutely. I mean, there hasn't really been anything to talk about until about a few days ago with the Devontae Smith extension. So I know we're going to hit on that and then we're going to get right into the mock draft. But that's about all Howie's done. And I'm just going to say right now, Howie nailed this offseason out of the park. I mean, would I've liked to see, more linebackers, maybe more safeties in the picture? Maybe,
That
but
can still
there's still
happen.
a lot of offseason to go. So I'm not going to go too far off. But the extensions, he has nailed it at the park, and we're looking good for the future. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
he's got
excited.
Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith all locked up through 2026 at least. So like you have a good start there. Obviously, things can change depending on how seasons go. But before we jump into the Devontae Smith extension, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJ54. And follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook at Edge of Philly Sports. And if you're joining us live, let us know in the comments your thoughts on the Devontae Smith extension. And as we go pick through pick here through the first round of the NFL draft, let us know if we nailed it, if you would have done something different. And then as we get closer to the end, let us know your favorite picks throughout um, throughout the draft as we go along. But as Connor mentioned, Devontae Smith did sign an extension, 3 years, $75 million. They picked up his fifth-year option, so it really was like a 4-year, $97-ish, $98 million deal. And like you said, Howie is getting these contracts done, getting these contracts out the way before Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, before the big time guys go out there, CeeDee Lamb, they go out there and get big deals. He did it with Jalen Hurts before, Herbert, Burrow, Lamar. He's doing it with Devontae Smith. Landon Dickerson got a big deal. Jordan Mailata got a big deal. He's getting these guys done early, keeping them under contract, and let's keep this consistency and this cohesiveness that the locker room has, keep it all together.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's people who are complaining, oh, Devontae Smith, it's overpaid, it's a lot of money, it's 25 million per year based on the 3x75.
It's
But
going
at
to
the
look
end of the
light in a couple
day,
of years.
exactly. At the end of the day, when T. Higgins gets traded and signs, or when Jamar Chase signs, and I get it. People are going to say, yeah, but Devontae Smith's not on the same level as Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. The point is, it resets the entire market. If these guys are worth 35 million, suddenly this $25 million wide receiver in Devontae Smith is probably worth $30 million. Like, we have to accept the reality of the situation. It's a good deal at the right time. And Howie does this quite often where he gets ahead of things and tries to get ahead of Jalen Hurts. He got ahead of the market because Joe Burrow signed his contract extension. Justin Herbert signed his contract extension. And it just went off after that. And then we look at Landon Dickerson, and obviously things are going to happen with guards. Guards maybe not as valued as much as tackles, but at the same time, that kind of reset the market. So that kind of goes to show for Justin Jefferson and for Jamar Chase. Okay, you're worth at least $25 million a year, at least this. And they're going to reset the entire market. So there's some people who sit there and complain about it now. You will complain about it a lot less when Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are sitting there at $30 million per year, $35 million per year, and their guarantee is almost their entire contract.
Yeah. Now, the only person that this potentially could, I don't want to say upset, and I don't think it will, I think they're going to be kosher, is AJ Brown. Obviously, we've seen what's happened with the social media thing, with him changing his picture to Tom Brady. And again, he grew up with Brady and Pats fans. So, and I get it. He's followed Jacoby Brissett, KJ Bourne. So like there's people that are looking into that as something else. But the Eagles, unless they get a top 5 pick, they're not trading him. You don't trade him. You have him under contract. He's not going to hold out. He's going to show up. Maybe if he has another year like he did last year, maybe if he has another 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, then the Eagles will sit there and reevaluate his contract. But you don't really have to right now. I don't foresee he's out there working this offseason. Davante said in his press conference that they talk every day. It's not even just about football, it's about life. So I have no issues with there being any issues. Now, could there be a problem when we get to game 4 and when you have Davante, AJ, you have Saquon, you have Dallas Goedert, you have Jalen Hurts, you have a lot of weapons on that offense. Remember the first year in 2023 when the first game of the season against Detroit, Davante had 0 receptions and AJ went off for 150, and then the next week Davante we're good. Not everybody is going to be, is going to eat every week. It's going to be one person one week, another person the next week. Winning cures all. So if the Eagles are winning, I don't think we'll hear anything. If the Eagles are 2-4, 2-5, and AJ's not getting his numbers, that'll be the issue. But obviously, we don't know what the schedule looks like. We know the Eagles are playing the Packers week 1 in Brazil. Beyond that, we don't know what the schedule is going to look like. So, when we get the predictions, and we don't know how the Eagles are going to be this year. Obviously, I think their over-under is 10.5, which I think is kind of high, probably about right for a second place schedule. But it'll be interesting to see once the season starts, once camp starts, once all that happens, how these guys gel and how everybody is brought together, especially with all those weapons on offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things that can change between now and, more of these preseason camps, preseason, the first week, the first couple weeks, the first 4 to 6 weeks. There's so much that can change between now and then. But I mean, at this point, the market was set a certain way when AJ Brown signed his extension. It's set a certain way with Devontae Smith, and it's going to be set a very specific way. And AJ Brown will be very intelligent to wait to see what happens with the Ja'Marr Chases, the Justin Jeffersons, the T. Higgins, and what he can put on the football field as a product in the coming, weeks once the season gets going. I mean, it would be, to sit there and say I'm upset that he got $25 million, I deserve that, would be completely ridiculous. Because
the market $25 million anyway.
Exactly, because the market's going to be reset in a whole different type of way here very soon.
Maybe that's why we haven't heard from him. He knows that. He knows he knows Justin Jefferson, Ja'Marr Chase, these guys, Davante Adams potentially. These guys are going to go out there and reset the market. They're going to get $30 million a year, $35 million a year. Then after this year or after next year, he can be like, all right, let's sit down, let's talk. Especially if he's been productive, and he's still young enough to where I don't foresee Howie doing what he did with Haason Reddick. Now I think there's an underlying thing with the Haason Reddick situation, which we're not going to find out anytime soon. But as long as everything's kosher with AJ and Jalen and AJ and Davante, the offense should be able to put up points.
Exactly. I agree. And I think if you're winning, you're happy, things are going good, and you deal with the contracts in the offseason. Like you said, if things go awry and things aren't going as well as you wanted, you're sitting in week 6 and you're sitting at 3-3, 2-4, then maybe you're sitting there saying, well, I'm producing, I deserve some money. But I mean, at this point, it's way too early to predict. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think we've seen it over the past seasons that this whole social media thing is kind of being blown out of proportion. People can do what they want on social media, say what they want on social media, follow who they want, unfollow who they want. And I don't think it needs to mean as much as it does. But I think the media just sees it and they think if they're the first one to see it on social media, it's something that they can run with. And it is something that they absolutely run with and create.
They rather be first than right.
Exactly. They'd rather be first and last, first and right. And I mean, okay, there's certain things that you can definitely pinpoint. The Brandon Ayuk thing is something to think about. It is something to talk about. The AJ Brown thing is definitely not something I think we need to overreact to, but it's something that Philadelphia media will absolutely take with, run with, and overreact to, because it's exactly how this media reacts and chooses to do business. But at the end of the day, this extension is great for the Eagles. Mm-hmm. I mean, I put the breakdown on Twitter a couple hours ago. I mean, at the end of his contract, in the final year, his cap hit is $20 million with a $4 million dead cap hit. 5 years down the road, when the salary cap is plus
60
50,
mil,
60
70
million
mil.
dollars,
Yeah.
this guy is a 4 million dead cap hit. Or if you want to make him play out his contract, he's a $20 million cap hit. That is nothing when you look at the salary cap and where it's going and what's going on. I think this is a great contract, a very team-friendly contract. And, you know, at the end of the day, when we reach that contract and it's a $20 million, we know exactly what Howie does to a 30-year-old. If he's producing, he's going to go out there and he's going to say, I'm going to extend you by 3 years. We're going to kick this can down the road. We're going to save some money, because we already know next year he saved $8 million because he took that $15 million guarantee. He turned it into a $7 million contract and saved us $8 million, which is a major plus and a major bonus for next year. I think it's a great contract. I think it is flying under the radar as far as like how people are treating it. And I think once the wide receiver market is completely reset here, probably in the next 6 months, we are going to sit there and say Howie is an absolute legend. We already know that.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Davante extension, and definitely a good one. And you know, he's going to be here for years to come. He said it. Philly's the best sports town, you know, football town in America, and he's wrong. He's right. He's right about that. All right. Now let's jump to why we're here, Connor. We are going to do our first round NFL mock draft. We're gonna do a spin to see who gets the first pick, and then we're just gonna go every other from there. And then the caveat is there's no trades. Obviously, we know there's going to be trades, but we're not going to do trades. I
do think what we will do is say we believe.
We think there'll be a trade here.
Yeah, we believe, because I think it is safe to say there's going to be a lot of trades. I think there's a lot of, you know, rumors. There's a lot of things going around. So I think it is safe to say there's going to be trades. And I think at this spot, this will likely happen. But if they stand true to
we'll say who the team that's picking is who they're going to select. All right, Connor, spin the wheel and let's see who's going first in the 2024 NFL mock draft. And it's going to be
go
Connor. Oh wow, you couldn't get any closer. Connor, you have the delight of having the number 1 overall pick for the Chicago Bears. Now we are using the NFL mock draft database simulator. And we're going to, again, we're based off that. We're not doing any trades. So if you're streaming, if you're tuning in live, let us know your thoughts on who you would take. And if Connor or if or whoever is up, if we took the right guy. So welcome to the 2024 NFL Draft. The Chicago Bears are on the clock. They have the number 1 pick. Thank you to the Carolina Panthers after the trade in the 2023 NFL Draft. Connor, go ahead.
First of all, I want to say that trade is looking really bad right now. Second
Carolina.
of all, I mean, we can talk about what we want to talk about with Caleb Williams and how he's acting and the rumors that are out there, but it's definitely going to be Caleb Williams. I mean, I think it is very clear at this point that it's going to be Caleb Williams, and I'm going to pick Caleb Williams here on this pick, and I'm going to make it plain and simple. He's been the guy who's been like the consensus number 1 quarterback, consensus number 1 pick for the last 2 seasons. I think it's plain, it's simple, it's easy. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to pass it on to you with the Washington Commanders.
I also forgot to mention, we're going to try to keep our explanations to about a minute to 90 seconds. And unless it's a straightforward, like this number 1 pick with Caleb Williams, we won't really dive into it, but we'll have a little banter. Davey, thanks for joining us. Glad you're doing no trades. Yeah, my brain capacity on a Saturday night, I can't do it. I don't feel like thinking about all the charts and all that. All right. Now, the Washington Commanders are up. They have a brand new ownership, brand new coaching staff. Dan Quinn's the coach. They traded Sam Howell to Seattle, I think. I forget who they traded.
I believe you're correct. Yep.
They traded Sam Howell, so they are looking for a quarterback, and it's going to be between Drake May and Jaden Daniels. There's a bunch of talk about Jaden Daniels did not appreciate being brought in as a group. when they brought in the quarterbacks with Washington. I'm not a big Jaden Daniels fan. I'm a Jaden Daniels guy. I'm also not a big Drake May guy. I like North Carolina basketball. But when it comes to like their court, Sam Howell was bad, Mitch Trubisky was bad. But I think the Washington Commanders are going to go with Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU. I know there's talk of the Raiders potentially moving up because Antonio Pierce had recruited him to Arizona State and was there when he was there before going to LSU. So that there's always that potential. But yeah, I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. They're going to look to get a quarterback. I don't know if that's going to be the right guy. We'll see what their new offensive coordinator's name is slipping my mind right now. The former Arizona coach, Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury is their offensive coordinator. They got Brian Johnson. They got a lot of guys that are going to help the quarterback. So I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. Now we'll go to the third pick with the New England Patriots.
I mean, I think at this point, it's pretty simple for the New England Patriots. They got to go with the quarterback position. I know there's been a lot of rumors out there of them exploring a trade option. And at the end of the day, they're not liking what they're seeing because people aren't going to go that rich. You're not going to trade, 2 first-round picks plus or whatever the ask is. I think there's a lot of rumors about the trades and a lot of people want to trade around, but I think the asking price is way too rich. The rumor is Jaden Daniels. I think Drake May is probably the better fit, the better option here. So I'm going with Drake May. I really like this pick. And I mean, JJ McCarthy's on the board. I think I don't think it's the move. I don't think it's right. I think there's a lot of things a lot of throwing some things out there, just some feelers out there to see what people are going to think about JJ McCarthy and see if they'll draft him. Same with Michael Penix. I think if you go any more beyond 4 quarterbacks in the first round, unless you're at the very bottom, I think it's getting really wild. And I think we have some very different discussions to have. But I'm going with Drake May here, and I think Drake May is a better choice than Jaden Daniels, but we'll see how things go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. The Missing Link podcast, excellent content, gents. Thank you for joining us. We are going through the first round of the 2024 NFL draft as the New England Patriots and their new coaching staff, Bill Belichick, is gone. It is Gerard Mayo leading the team, and they go with a quarterback after trading Mac Jones to Jacksonville. To the 4th overall pick, and I think this is where there's going to be a trade. Connor, you said you don't think there should be more than, 4 quarterbacks drafted in the first round? There might be 6. J.J. McCarthy.
Sadly.
Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix potentially. There's a chance that there could be about 6 quarterbacks taken in and the NFL is a quarterback league. So if you don't have one, you kind of want to try to get one. Maybe all 6 won't hit, obviously, but we'll see what happens. But I think there will be a trade here. Could be Minnesota, the Giants. It could be whatever moving up. But since we're not doing trades, the Arizona Cardinals have their quarterback. They've been touting it all season. So they're going to try to get them a weapon. They don't have Marquise Hollywood Brown anymore. They don't have Zach Ertz anymore. So they are going to take a receiver. And I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. Look, I don't know if he's good. Obviously, he was really good in college. But there's a lot of people that are on the Rome Odunze train, and that he's going to be an interesting guy. But I'm going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Arizona Cardinals.
I like the pick. I think it's a right pick if the trade's not there. For the LA Chargers, there's rumors this is the area where there's going to be a trade. Arizona and the LA Chargers. Mm-hmm. And strictly for the fact that Arizona has their quarterback, the Chargers have their quarterback. If somebody wants to move up, they can get their quarterback.
Would it surprise you if Harbaugh traded Herbert and took McCarthy?
I think it would be a terrible idea.
It would be a terrible idea, but it's Jim Harbaugh we're talking about.
But I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. It's been the talk of the town for this entire offseason is, would McCarthy make this move if JJ McCarthy is there, which I really believe that JJ McCarthy is going to be there. I would see it. I could see it. And you could get a lot for Justin Herbert. So it makes sense if the price is right and the deal is right.
And Minnesota has 2 first-round picks, and that's the team that could potentially make a move like that.
If Minnesota went and got Herbert, that would be huge. That would get your extension with Justin Jefferson done in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, we're heavy speculating here. No trades on the block. The Chargers are up there, but I think that like both of these deals could be done. But if you're sitting there and you already have, Arizona is able to make a deal and 4 quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, then this is a point where I see, okay, the Chargers got to make the pick. They're going to make the pick because I don't think anyone's going to trade up. I really don't see, like, if the Giants aren't able to make the trade up and say Minnesota jumps and grabs the Arizona pick and picks whoever they want at quarterback. Like it becomes a whole different ballgame. So it all depends about what happens. But I mean, the Chargers lost Mike Williams, traded Keenan Allen. It's a whole different ballgame now. They definitely have to get the wide receiver position figured out, especially for Justin Herbert and giving him some weapons. And I'm going with Malik Nabers because Marvin Harrison and Malik Nabers are 1 and 2. You can argue it however you want. I prefer Marvin Harrison to Malik Nabers, but I don't think you can go wrong with either of them.
All right. So the New York Giants are now on the clock. This gets interesting. They obviously gave Daniel Jones that awful contract. They don't have a running game back. I mean, they picked up somebody that Saquon's with the Eagles. With Sterling Shepard, is he their top receiver right now? Or whatever.
I mean, you could argue their draft picks, but I mean, yeah. It's gross.
So this is going to be an interesting spot for the New York Giants. They need help all over the place. They're going to stick on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they're going to draft wide receiver Rome Odunze from Washington. They need to get weapons for Daniel Jones or whoever the hell is going to play quarterback for them. They do have Drew Lock as their backup. He might be better than Daniel Jones, but obviously Jones with the contract is going to be given first shot. So you got to get them weapons, see if they can get them the ball down the field. So I'm going to go with Rome Odunze for the New York Giants.
I remember the episode soon after the Daniel Jones contract was given and how much we laughed that episode about that contract given. And they felt, it's only 4 years. It's like, I think 2.5 of it was guaranteed essentially. And we still laugh because they're like, it's not that much risk to it. There was a ton of risk to it because now you're kind of stuck. You're kind of stuck with it, or you pick a guy like JJ McCarthy and say, okay, we're going to use him next year. Like you kind of kick the can down the road with it, depending on how trades go and how it all goes. But yeah, that was a terrible contract extension. And I don't care about the weapons. You just gave away your best weapon. The weapon that created your offense is gone. So,
well, they didn't really win much with them, so maybe they're hoping that if they can have more of a spread of the ball type of offense, that they'll be good. All right, Tennessee Titans at number 7 are on the clock.
Tennessee is an interesting scenario. I mean, you could look at the quarterback position. I don't think they would be at this point, but I think I'm going to go.
Levis.
Yeah, they're going to give Will Levis a ball. They're going to give him a shot. So I'm going to go with Dallas Turner on this one. They have the need at offensive tackle. They have the need at edge. They have the need along the offensive line altogether. But I mean, I'm going to go with Dallas Turner. I'm going to go with the difference maker on the defensive side of the football and see what they can do because, I mean, I don't think Tennessee's that good. Like, I still think they're going to be a top 10 drafting team next year. I don't think that the answer is at the core is Will Levis at the quarterback position right now. I don't think, you could go Joe Alt, you could take an offensive tackle and address that, and you wouldn't be in the wrong. But I think, shore up some more of that defense, which I prefer the defense for Tennessee versus the offense for Tennessee. So we'll see how things go, but I don't think this is a good team.
No, they're not. They got a new coaching staff. Surprisingly got Calvin Ridley to pair with DeAndre Hopkins, though. So, and they signed Tony Pollard. So we'll see how that offense goes. I don't think the offensive line is that great, but we'll see. I like Dallas Turner, obviously being a Bama fan. So that'd be a good pick. All right, pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. They signed Kirk Cousins. They have a lot of weapons on that offense. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, the receiver, Drake London. Do
I need to go down the board?
I know. One thing, so I will say the one thing I don't like about this app, it doesn't tell what the needs are for the team.
It does have it up here. I don't know if you can zoom in.
Oh, Atlanta team
Their
needs. I
top
see it.
4 needs are edge, wide
Edge, wide
receiver,
receiver,
safety,
safety.
and linebacker.
All right,
I
so they
have
need
I
us.
have no clue why tight end is their 5th need because
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
either.
that Kyle Pitts just has been underutilized and not utilized properly.
Yeah. So this could be a spot where there probably could be a trade because they're going to probably kind of stretch for somebody here. I'm going to go with Jared. Hold on. I haven't said his name, so this is a tough one for me because I'm not the biggest man. I think that Atlanta's going to go with Laitu Latu, the edge from UCLA. And that would be a heartbreaker for a bunch of fans in this city, in Philly. That'd be a guy that the Eagles could potentially look if he dropped, but they need to get some help on the defensive side of the ball. They need to get an edge. So the Falcons take Latu from UCLA. Chicago Bears are on the board with their second first-round pick.
Thank you for the A+ on that first pick from NFL Mock Draft Database on Caleb Williams. I felt that was pretty obvious. Okay, so I feel Chicago's needs after that is largely on the defensive side of the football. Again, they have tight end kind of high up there. I don't mind Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet can handle it versus going Brock Bowers at this point. I am going to go with Jared Verse on this one. I know you were about to say you probably weren't a big fan of Florida State or Jared Verse, but I think that, edge is the next biggest need. I think that's where you fulfill your need
So I'm not necessarily. I
on
don't want to
either
say I'm
side.
necessarily not a fan. I just think at this spot, I don't think he's a top 10 pick. But we'll see. So, but again, with no trades,
It changes things.
it does change things. All right,
The New York
number.
Jets at number 10.
I hate the Jets, but the New York Jets, they've addressed a lot of spots. They've been trying to get a receiver. They got Mike Williams. They got Tyron Smith for the offensive line. They traded for Hassan Reddick. That defense is decent, and it's going to come down to if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. I'm going to go, and I know there's a lot of smoke screen. I think it's more smoke than there's fire, and I think they're trying to get somebody to trade up for potentially to get this guy. But since we're not doing trades, I'm going to go in the best interest of the New York Jets. Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. I'm not the biggest fan of that move. I do think that the Jets will want to move this pick and try to recoup some picks later on in the draft. Again, JJ McCarthy's there, so somebody's going to trade up into the top 10 to overdraft McCarthy. But I'll go Brock Bowers for the New York Jets. Minnesota Vikings are on the board, needing a quarterback.
I mean, at this point, which I don't think this is how the whole thing's going to break down, they seem to have shown quite a significant interest in JJ McCarthy. I think at this point, this is easily where he would go, but I think that somebody, I don't know if where there's smoke, there's fire on the JJ McCarthy thing, or if he's going to fall, or if he's actually going to get picked as high as they say. I do exactly like you said. At this point, it looks like there's going to be 4 to 6 quarterbacks picked in the first round. And at the end of the day, we know that 4 to 6 quarterbacks never, ever hit in a draft class. It just doesn't happen. 2 of these guys are probably going to hit, 3 at the most. So if by some crazy way JJ McCarthy is here at number 11, based on all the rumors and the gossip, and the Minnesota Vikings are sitting on the board, they're 100% going JJ McCarthy.
Yes, they are. And I'm not a big McCarthy fan. I don't think he's all that good.
The Denver Broncos at number 12.
So the Broncos' biggest need is quarterback. They got rid of Russell Wilson. And again, this is a team that could also potentially move up to get a JJ McCarthy or to get one of those top 3, or not Caleb Williams, but to get a top 3 quarterback. Their other needs: cornerback, D-line, offensive tackle. I'm not drafting a quarterback here just because I'm not a big fan. Like, Michael Penix Jr. would be a way overdrafting here at the 12th spot. So to protect whoever's playing quarterback, he's there. He's the 8th ranked player on this list, and he's going to be there at number 12. Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. Potentially could. I don't think he's the best offensive tackle in this draft, but they have him. But and he could potentially be the guy that protects the future franchise quarterback for the Broncos. So I'm going to go Joe Alt.
I think Vegas at this point would probably be trading back because they know they could get Michael Penix, who is someone they seem to be enamored with later. If you were to take Michael Penix at this point, I feel you would be doing your team a complete injustice. And I think that you need to be moving back at this point. I don't mind Michael Penix, but to take him with the 13th pick and as the 5th quarterback in this draft would be, to me, completely crazy to think. They do have a very big need at the cornerback position. I do love Kenyon Mitchell. I do think if this was the position they were in, which I do think this is a spot that will be a trade back, I would be picking Kenyon Mitchell for the Las Vegas Raiders because they definitely have that need at cornerback. But I do think this is a big trade back spot.
I agree. So you went with Kenyon Mitchell, fast riser from Toledo. On the clock, the New Orleans Saints, they have offensive line issues, defensive line, cornerback, interior offensive line. They have a lot of needs. They might even have I know they have Chris Olave, but they got rid of Michael Thomas. I'm going to go with Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle, Oregon State for the New Orleans Saints. I think like all their tackles are hurt, like have issues, and they might not be available for the start of camp and even the start of the season. So I'm going to go Fuaga from Oregon State for New Orleans. Indianapolis Colts are on the clock.
They would have loved to have seen Brock Bowers fall here. I do truly believe Brock Bowers could fall here, and I think it would be an injustice by many teams to allow him to fall here. But because he is not here, the biggest needs are cornerback and safety. I don't love the safety class. I like the cornerback class at the top a lot more. I know that Eagles fans are probably going to hate this because he just had rumored to be a spectacular visit with them. But I'm going Terrion Arnold from Alabama to the Indianapolis Colts to address her cornerback need.
I would love that pick for the Eagles. And again, if you start seeing guys drop like him, potentially there could be a move up for the Eagles and Howie Roseman if the visit was as good as it's claiming to be. Seattle Seahawks.
And this is I'm just to say I'm fine with the move up 7 spots to grab Terrion Arnold here because I don't think it would be as costly as moving into the top 10 or any type of situation like that. But to Seattle at pick 16.
Excuse me. The Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. Their needs include offensive tackle, defensive line, cornerback, quarterback. Even though they have Geno Smith and have traded for Sam Howell. So I'm going to go with the best available offensive lineman and Fashanu. I'm going to go with Fashanu from Penn State, offensive tackle of the future for the Seattle Seahawks. So we have finished the first half of the first round, and they have gone Caleb Williams to Chicago, Jaden Daniels to Washington, Drake May to the Patriots, Marvin Harrison to Arizona, Malik Neighbors to the Chargers, Romeo Odunze to the Giants, Dallas Turner to Tennessee, Latu to Atlanta, Jared Verse to Chicago, Brock Bowers to the Jets, J.J. McCarthy to Minnesota, Joe Alt to Denver, Mitchell to Vegas, Fuaga to New Orleans, Arnold to Indianapolis, and Fashanu to Seattle. The Jacksonville Jaguars kick off the second half of the first round at pick number 17. Connor, who you got the Jaguars taking?
This is interesting. They kind of have a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball. They have a need at cornerback. They have a need at edge. They have a need at offensive tackle, safety, running back. They kind of have needs all over the place. Like they're not actually. I feel like they're not the team that they're made out to be, despite seemingly having their quarterback and stuff. And So this is a tough pick. I feel like this could be a pick where Jacksonville potentially moves back if the right players aren't there. But here I am going to go with yay. I'm gonna go with Nate Wiggins on this one. Purely
Mm.
for the fact that he's probably more of a corner. Cooper DeJean is more of a potentially a corner safety, more of a defensive back. There's not really any edges on the board I would love to go for and reach for right now. You could go for Fotanu, the tackle out of Washington. But I'm going with Nate Wiggins. I'm going to address that cornerback position.
Okay. And that'd be again a guy that the Eagles could potentially be eyeing. You're not going to hear
Arturo
any
Ramos.
sympathy from me. I'm taking Knicks to win the series anyway. Hopefully they sweep those bums, but that's a different story for a different day. All right, pick number 18, the Cincinnati Bengals. There was a lot of talk of a potential big trade happening with Cincinnati, and could pair Ja'Marr Chase with Justin Jefferson. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. The Bengals have needs at tackle, receiver, cornerback, and interior offensive lineman. So looking at who's available, let's shore up the offensive line. Let's give them Troy Fatanu, offensive tackle from Washington. Again, you got to protect Joe Burrow. Like you saw what happened when he got hurt last year. You have to find a way to protect him, give him the best available offensive lineman, and see what he can do. So Fatanu from Washington for the Bengals. The Los Angeles Rams with their first round pick since 2016. Which is amazing.
Amazing, truly amazing, and they have needs kind of everywhere. It's like, the quarterback position is really secured. Not, I don't know if it's necessarily true. They got the need at cornerback. They have the need at edge. There's some needs at wide receiver. You got Cooper Kupp, who's getting older. You did have Puka Nacua, who had a really good season, but could he be the guy? The answer is the number one there. I feel this could be a trade back situation for the Rams. I feel they could gather some more assets. They don't need to make that first round pick right away. Although I don't feel they're in a spot to say that they're competing now and they're in a win now, even though they probably feel as such. But here I am going to go with, oh boy, this is fun.
Aaron Donald did retire. They could go to that defensive line, Byron Murphy.
Yeah, I feel like with the retirement, I feel like defensive line is not high enough up on that list, and maybe we're reading this list incorrectly. I just don't feel like it's high enough up that list, and I am going to go with Byron Murphy if he drops here because Aaron Donald retired, the future Hall of Famer, future guy going to Canton. You need to replace that, and no one's going to fully replace him, but you definitely need to attempt to start to fill that void.
Yes. So pick number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. New quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. They traded the receiver to Carolina. His name is blanking for some reason. They still have George Pickens. Who's the other receiver that they traded?
They traded Deontay Johnson.
Thank you, Deontay Johnson.
They have George Pickens and a lot of less pieces after that.
So if the board falls like this, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would be happy to draft Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver from LSU, pair him with George Pickens, and whoever's going to start. It's going to be Russell Wilson to start. It's going to be interesting to see how Arthur Smith, who's now running the offense, couldn't do it in Atlanta with all those weapons. We'll see what he can do with Pittsburgh. But Mike Tomlin definitely will be in his ear if he doesn't get things going. So I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. Miami Dolphins are on the clock.
There's a lot of rumors about Brandon Ayuk maybe going to Pittsburgh. And I think I would love that pick. I think it would be really good. I like George Pickens. I don't love George Pickens. He's not a number one wide receiver for your team. And I think they definitely need to address that. If they feel that's their number one wide receiver and the number one wide receiver and a guy who can be that top asset, we may debate that. But I'm not a NFL scout or anything like that. So on the Miami Dolphins side of the football, they have a new defensive coordinator coming in. Things are looking a lot different. Needs along the defensive line, which is interesting. Offensive tackle is also a need. They got to kind of got to kind of protect the guy who's got multiple concussions to his name. Did
Well, we
not look
lost
like he
Christian
should be.
Wilkins.
Did not look like he should be on a football field at times. I mean, wide receiver seems very high as a need here. I mean, I know they need a wide receiver 3, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle seem plenty adequate to cover off a number of those. So I'm going to go with Jerzon Newton out of Illinois on the defensive line. Like you said, they lost Christian Wilkins. They have some needs along that defensive line. Newton is highly, highly touted. The fact that he falls this far, I think, is a really good spot for Miami to take him. So I'm going there. And you get the lucky choice of pick 22 with our Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow, man. If the board fell like this, Howie would probably man, there's so many names on this board that I like right now.
I think he'd trade back. If he saw all these names, he would trade back.
Oh, he probably would have traded up though. But I think if they didn't trade up and these names were on the board, you're trading back. So before I make the pick, we're going to discuss here. We have a little bit of time. They could draft an offensive lineman that can play guard right now, and then move to tackle when Lane Johnson retires. They could draft a corner in Kool-Aid McKinstry. I don't want Cooper DeJean, so I'm not picking him. I do not want him. I don't think he's going to be that good in the NFL. So I'm probably in the minority there, so I'm not getting him. So right now I'm looking at J.C. Latham and Kool-Aid McKinstry. If you wanted to go receiver, get a third receiver, you could go with Donnie Mitchell. Xavier Worthy is also available. And again, this is probably a prime trade back for the Eagles. Jackson Powers Johnson, if you wanted to keep Cam Jurgens at right guard, Jackson Powers Johnson, center. And he could slide right in to be your starting center. Davey says, Kool-Aid, please. We need a specialist cornerback, not a utility player as talented as DeJean is. I don't think DeJean's all that talented. It is what it is. I just think it was the scheme he was playing in. We know that Slay will be here. I still think there's a chance Bradbury won't be, but they're going to give him the chance in camp. They have Reed Blankenship and CJGJ at safety. Avonte Maddox is back. Isaiah Rodgers should hopefully be reinstated, potentially. He didn't get reinstated when the 5 other guys did, so that's interesting. I do think we know this is tough because we know the Eagles like to build from the inside out, right, Connor?
Yes.
So
very much so.
I'm stuck between I was always of the belief if JC Latham were to drop into like the back half of the teens, Howie is going to trade up for him. He can go right guard, and then when Lane Johnson retires, he can go right tackle. He's here, but I'm also a big Kool-Aid fan.
And I mean, I know you didn't. We've talked about him, and you don't love him, but Chop Robinson being there definitely would have Howie's ears perked. So
I don't want another Penn State guy.
I know you don't, and I know you don't love it, but I know that his ears would be perked at this point to have a top offensive lineman, a top edge, a top cornerback, all on the board. Cooper DeJean, who you may not love him, Davey may not love him, but that's a top defensive back, whether you put him at safety, whether you put him at cornerback. Like, this is just how we would love the board to fall as. And I don't think it's going to fall this way, but it's what he would love.
All right. With the 22nd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. That was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because
I personally think in this spot, if those guys and those names are available, especially Latham and Mims and that, if he can't get a trade back, I think he's going offensive tackle. He's kicking someone into guard, and then he's going to kick him out to tackle. When
it would have been J.C. Latham, probably.
It would probably be J.C. Latham. Yep. So the unfortunate reality of the situation is we want the cornerback or we want the edge and we want that need addressed. And I really, really, really do believe that it probably would have ended up a tackle, moved into guard, and moved out to tackle after the fact.
And Davey says he thinks that Kool-Aid's being underrated. I think he had a stress fracture in his foot, I think. Wasn't really able to do much at the combine, or potentially at his pro day either. But they say he's going to be ready for camp. So, and again, I love Kool-Aid. He also can return he returned punts at Alabama. So like I know that the Eagles have Britton Covey, but Kool-Aid has that athletic ability. So Kool-Aid McKinstry, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock with their second first round pick in 2024 NFL draft.
I want to say I do agree with you in that, McCovey had a really good year. He's been a really good return guy. But if you have an opportunity to address, the return position and get a guy who can address a position and not be like a McCovey who never touches field offensively, I would be 100% for getting someone in there who can be a kick returner or a punt returner. And then you can cut a guy like Covey who really isn't doing anything for your offense. Just saying. A+ for JJ McCarthy. That was obviously a clear A+ pick by me. Thank you very much. So I will come up again here. I don't think they're going to have the 2 picks. I really do think that there's going to be a trade scenario where they're not going to end up with both of these picks. There's a reason they got pick 11 and pick 23, because I don't think they're going to use him. I think they want to leverage him to move up in some sort of scenario. But I did get JJ McCarthy. So now we have the defensive line. We have the interior offensive line. We have the offensive tackle position. We have a lot of positions of need. I'm going to go here with J.C. Latham because I already talked about how much I liked him for the Philadelphia Eagles pick. So I'm going to take him here because he can move in interior. If you have someone you trust at the tackle position, if you don't have anyone you trust at the tackle position, you kick him out and you start him at tackle right away. So that's going to be J.C. Latham for me. Go and protect J.J. McCarthy, who is not going to be the pick at 11, and go and pick J.C. Latham at pick 23, who is not going to be the pick at pick 23. But that is my dream scenario and likely the dream scenario for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. If they stay there, which I agree with you, they won't. They're going to trade up to try to get a quarterback unless or trade those picks for Justin Herbert if that were to happen. Doubt it will, but you never know with Jim Harbaugh. All right, the 24th pick. This is the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm looking at the
Cowboys.
I'm looking at the punters that are available.
Who's available is Mr. Irrelevant. Should we go down the board?
So you have the Iowa punter, the BYU punter, the Texas Tech. No, I'm kidding. All right, Dallas's needs are offensive tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, defensive line. They also need money because $50 million is being taken up by Dak Prescott. They're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb, who didn't go to voluntary workouts. They're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. Trayvon
also didn't show up.
Trayvon Diggs is coming back from an injury. There's a lot. I don't know if you saw that story that there's people within Dallas that are tired of Parsons' attitude and just the way he carries himself, which is interesting. So everything that, all the good things are happening in Dallas right now. We do know they're not going to win the division, though, because it hasn't happened in 20 years that the same team has won the division back-to-back years. So it's come down to the Eagles, Giants, and Commanders. But with the 24, they're with the 24th pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Dallas Cowboys are going to select Graham Barton, the interior offensive lineman out of Duke. He can play inside. You can move Tyler Smith to the outside and try to help shore up the offensive line, which has lost their center. Biotis went to the Commanders. Smith went to the Jets, so they're going to have to remake that offensive line. So Dallas will go with Barton out of Duke. And the Green Bay Packers are on the clock at number 25.
Nice pick. Dallas does have some offensive line needs. As much as we like to pick at them, we do have to make a very serious pick, and that is a decent pick. Green Bay, they have needs at offensive tackle. They have needs at interior offensive lineman. I am not a big Amarius Mims fan. Others maybe. I think at this point here, I am going to go with Jackson Powers Johnson at the interior offensive line. It's easier to move interior offensive linemen than it is to necessarily move tackles. And I think that you have a good opportunity to address that need at the interior offensive line and move him somewhere and have him be a force for you. So Jackson Powers Johnson for me to protect your seemingly franchise quarterback in Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm. All right. Pick number 26 belongs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in the wild card round of the playoffs.
Shall we look for Mr. Irrelevant again?
They re-signed Mike Evans. They re-signed Baker Mayfield. So their needs are edge, interior offensive line, linebacker, defensive line. Devin White is now a Philadelphia Eagle. They lost Shaq Barrett too, I think signed with Miami, if I'm not mistaken. I think if he's here, they'll run up to the podium. Damian Robinson, the edge, Chop Robinson from Penn State, will be the pick here as they try to rebuild their defensive line. So the Buccaneers go defense with Robinson from Penn State.
Here is Arizona up again with their plethora of picks. A+ for you, LJ, on the Marvin Harrison Jr. pick. And here we are again up with the need at edge, interior offensive line. We got some running back needs. Don't love the running back class this year. Don't think there's any first-round pick from running backs. There's the linebacker need, though. And this is interesting because I like Peyton Wilson here. I like Edgar and Cooper. I like Peyton Wilson. I like both of these guys. Now, who is a guy that I sit there and I think, who would our guy like in Arizona? Jonathan Gannon. Would he like an Edgar and Cooper, or would he like a Peyton Wilson? I don't think there's any edge up there. I don't know if I'd take Darius Robinson here. I think this is an opportunity to take a linebacker. I think there's only going to be one linebacker, and he showed out this offseason with his athletic ability.
You really think they would take one of these two in the first round, though? I don't think they're first-round picks.
Oh, man.
This is another trade candidate opportunity.
It's definitely a trade candidate, but if they trade back from one pick, I'd find it hard to believe that they're trading back twice. I feel like they're going to make this pick. And, I mean, interior offensive line, you saw the Powers Johnson pick. I don't know if there's the pick there. I'm sticking with it. I'm going with it because I've seen it in a lot of mock drafts as well that, he's going in the first round, and I'm going Peyton Wilson and his athletic ability and what he can bring on the defensive side of the ball as a linebacker and addressing that need as a linebacker. There is one linebacker going in this first round, and constantly in mock drafts, I'm seeing Peyton Wilson over Edgar and Cooper.
I don't think any linebackers are going in the first round.
That's up for debate. See, that's up for debate. I agree. I don't know if it's going to happen. I just think that in this spot, if you've traded back from 4, which I think that's a spot that they would trade back from, I don't see them trading back here, and I see them taking the opportunity to take a shot. And Peyton Wilson probably doesn't come back around for Arizona with their next pick. So,
all right, let's move to pick number 28. It's the Buffalo Bills, who lost almost everybody. Stephon Diggs got traded to Houston. Their entire secondary is pretty much gone except Rasul Douglas. The Bills' needs include receiver, safety, D-line, offensive tackle. I think if he's here, the Bills are going to run up there. They're going to take Cooper DeJean from Iowa. He can be the Swiss Army knife for them, play everywhere. So if he's there, that's who the Bills are going to take. So I'm going DeJean from Iowa for the Buffalo Bills. The Detroit Lions. By the way, speaking of Detroit, what did you think of their new uniforms that they showed the other day?
I mean, better than the rumored Houston uniforms. But I mean, everybody's gonna have a different opinion on how they like uniforms and what they think of uniforms. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's a good uniform. I mean, I'm a little more upset that Philadelphia's uniform options may be limited in Brazil. You move them to play as the hometown team somewheres, and they cannot wear green.
That's fine. I'd rather them wear the all black. Go all black with the black helmet.
I agree. At that point, you might as well prepare for somebody's funeral and put out that black uniform, because if they're not going to let you wear green, why not?
Wear all black with the black helmet, because you can have a third helmet now. So you can have the black, the green, and the midnight green. So there you go.
Detroit Lions, they needs that cornerback, defensive line, wide receiver, offensive tackle, kicker. That's high. But okay, so we're going to look at this. I love Jameson Williams through the entire process. I liked him. I thought he could be a guy. I don't know if it's going to happen. I struggle with that. But with that in mind and looking at how the board's landed, and I mean, if the board landed this way for Detroit, like, I think this would be a trade back scenario. I can't imagine that they would sit at this scenario with this type of board the way it is. But I am going to go. And I've seen him in a lot of first round mock drafts. He's a guy who's going there. They've given the shot at Jameson Williams. They have a Jameson Williams there. I don't think Adonai Mitchell's the guy here because they have Jameson Williams. Adonai Mitchell and him are kind of similar in what they're looking for in the player. I'm going with Ladd McConkey on this one. I've seen him in so many mock drafts here, or not necessarily here, but I've seen him in so many mock drafts going in the first round as a guy rumored to be sneaking into the first round. This is a guy who brings a different element to the game than maybe Amon-Ra, different element than Jameson Williams. And I'm going with Ladd McConkey here. They're going to give it a shot at wide receiver. I do think this is a prime trade back situation with the way the board landed.
All right. We're with 3 picks remaining in the first round. The Baltimore Ravens are on the clock. They signed Derrick Henry. They got Lamar Jackson. They have Zay Flowers. They have some weapons. Now they need to protect Lamar. And they have a couple guys at the offensive tackle position who they could take, either Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton. I think they're going to go Mims from Georgia to protect Lamar Jackson. And I think the Baltimore Ravens will be very happy to have the option of either two. And they will take them, try to continue to shore up that offensive line and see if they can get past the AFC Championship game. The NFC champion San Francisco 49ers are now on the clock.
Boy, I wish I could scroll down a lot more, but I don't think I can. I got to be fair in this position.
If I was fair for Dallas, I guess you can be fair for San Fran.
Needs their offensive tackle, wide receiver, interior offensive line, a lot of offensive needs here. They have a need at edge. Darius Robinson's still there, but at this point, I really, really am of the belief that things just aren't there, just aren't going to work out with Brandon Ayuk. It just does not look like they're going to be able to meet eye to eye. Adonai Mitchell falls to them. He brings a different element to the game than necessarily a Deebo Samuel. So I'm going with Adonai Mitchell here. I'm giving them the wide receiver. They're going to prepare for life after Brandon Ayuk because I think the time is coming to prepare for it.
All right, and we're now down to the final pick of the first round, the NFL Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, looking to go 3 in a row after this year. They have Patrick Mahomes. They signed Hollywood Brown. They have Travis Kelce. They re-signed Chris Jones. They traded Sneed, right? L'Jarius Sneed.
Mm-hmm.
So their needs include wide receiver, cornerback, edge, and tight end. I don't see this would be a prime spot for if the board fell this way and a team wanted to get a quarterback to get that 5th-year option, either Penix or Bo Nix. This would be a prime trade up opportunity for whatever team that would be. But since we're not doing trades, I think Andy's going to go with a receiver. And I know they signed Hollywood Brown, but Xavier Worthy, who ran a combine record 4.21 40-yard draft, he is going to be selected by the Kansas City Chiefs. So
I like it. And with the Rashee Rice stuff, I mean, it's spotty because it kind of looks really bad on Rice right now. Like there's a lot of things that are working against him, but it's very difficult to see, what is ultimately going to end up happening there. But I think if you're sitting at that point, you don't know what the state of Rashee Rice is going to be. You probably have to go wide receiver, but I agree with you. I think that's prime trade back because you got Patrick Mahomes and he can work with almost anything at the wide receiver position.
So the second half of the first round went like this, starting at number 17 with Jacksonville, Nate Wiggins. The Cincinnati Bengals went with Troy Fautanu. The Rams went with Byron Murphy. The Pittsburgh Steelers went Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. The Miami Dolphins went Zerjon Newton, defensive lineman from Illinois. The Philadelphia Eagles went Kool-Aid McKinstry to help at the cornerback position. The Minnesota Vikings went J.C. Latham from Alabama, the offensive tackle. Dallas Cowboys went Graham Barton, guard from Duke. The Green Bay Packers went the center from Oregon, Jackson Powers Johnson. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went with Chop Robinson, defensive end edge from Penn State. Arizona Cardinals, surprise pick in my opinion, go Peyton Wilson, linebacker from NC State. The Bills try to shore up the secondary, go Cooper DeJean. The Detroit Lions get Ladd McConkey. The Baltimore Ravens, Amarius Mims. And the San Francisco 49ers go with Donnie Mitchell, and the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs round out the first round with Xavier Worthy, excuse me. So what is your favorite pick of the first round of our draft, Connor?
Oh boy. I mean, I think I'm gonna end up having to go with the LA Chargers. I mean, anything to shore up that wide receiver position. And at this point, we don't know the future of that whole team. Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison, if you had the pick of either of those guys or Romo Donzi, I mean, I'd be happy with that position. And I think that that would be my favorite pick because they have to fill that need so badly. What about you?
Probably man. I would go JC Latham because getting him at 23 would be a steal. I think he's a top 15 pick. That's how good he is.
Worth noting, it is a team that we do not anticipate making 2 first.
It is, but I'm going based off of our rules, quote unquote. Yeah, I'm gonna go Latham. Again, that's a prime guy. I think how we could potentially draft because you can slot him in at right guard for a couple of years, and then when Lane Johnson retires, slot him in at left or right tackle, and go with seamless transition like we're hoping we're going from Jason Kelce to Cam Jurgens.
And I think Cool noted he wanted another linebacker for the. I anticipate that he wanted a linebacker at the KC pick, Junior Colson or Edgar and Cooper. I mean, I think one linebacker is going to make it. I just think the debate is who. And I think, based on a lot of things that I've been reading and seeing, Peyton Wilson, they liked how a lot of teams like how he tested. They like what he might be able to bring to the NFL level. And that's why I put Peyton Wilson in there somewhere, is because there's going to be a linebacker in round 1. I promise you there will be. I just don't know exactly which one. And then he said Super Bowl. And I mean, at this point, I would never rule KC out of any Super Bowl opportunity.
So I do think the Eagles have 2 second-round picks. And so for everybody that doesn't know, what are we doing? Monday or I think Monday. We're going
Monday
to
at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
We're going to do our Eagles only mock draft. No trades again. So the Eagles have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 draft picks. So we're going to go with the 8 picks that they have currently right now. And
even though
obviously
we know
how
he's going
to make it. Huh?
Even though we know how he won't.
Yeah, how he will make a move. But we are going to go with the 8. We're going to run a couple mock draft simulations separately. See how the board falls, pick who we like, and then we'll put a vote out on our Twitter page after Monday to see who's you like better. But yeah, I love this time of year. Like the draft Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is going to be so much fun. Just watching the draft, seeing how things shake out, and hopefully the Eagles are able to get a playmaker. Get a couple of playmakers definitely on the defensive side of the football. To help them out going into the 2024 season.
I mean, I agree. I love this time of year. I love the draft. There's so much. I mean, call it what you want. There's so much smoke. I mean, you would at this point believe that there's going to be about 20 trades in the first round. We already know it's going to probably be closer to 3 or 4 trades. It always happens this way. There's going to be a lot. There's a lot of people who feel there's a lot of riches in the picks, especially those top 5 picks. And they want a lot more than probably what it's worth, and they're probably not going to get what they want. So it's going to change the whole landscape. But I mean, I think the pick starts at pick number 2. After Caleb Williams goes to Chicago, it all starts there. Who's going to pick what? Who's going to address their needs? Who's going to address that quarterback position? This is going to be a good draft. There's a lot of quarterbacks who are expected to go, especially on day 1 and day 2. And that's what intrigues me the most, because there's a lot of teams that really, really, I want to say, are forcing the need to address the quarterback position. And there's a lot that, unfortunately, the reality of it is in the NFL, they are going to swing and they are going to miss big time. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this whole draft breaks out, because it is a very interesting draft. I think it's very not wide receiver heavy, but very offensive heavy. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of heavy tackles at the top, a lot of quarterbacks at the top, a lot of wide receivers who are expected to go in the first round. So I think that's going to make it very interesting to see how many truly go offensive and where the defense goes. we know Howie's going to love it either way because the board's going to fall in a very unique way for Howie Roseman.
Yep, and he even mentioned it in the press conference that he had last week that he loves to make trades. So don't be surprised when the Eagles make a trade in the draft, multiple trades in the draft. All right, Connor, that was a lot of fun. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHurrell54. Follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Edge of Philly Sports. Thank you all for your comments in the chat. We appreciate it. We'll be back Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time with our Eagles-only mock draft, 8 picks. We'll see how much we vary and how much we differ and where we think the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman will go. We'll probably get maybe one total out of 16 correct. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.